Welcome to the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast, your place for truckside chats and insights into the retriever game. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned handler, this podcast is another resource for tips, tricks, and insights from both the amateurs and professional trainers' perspectives. Each week, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of retriever training, sharing stories of success, overcoming challenges, and forging stronger bonds with our dogs. This is the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. I'm Chris Rudd, your host, fellow retriever enthusiast, and student of the game. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rudd, and today I'm joined by Jake Stinson and Bill Schaefer. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So you guys got to see Dan's property here today. You didn't train on it, but did you do a little tour?
No. I pulled up about 5:30, aired my dogs, fed them, aired them, watered them, let them rest for a little bit. It was a long drive, so we just kind of hung out.
Yeah, so today's Sunday, right?
Yeah. For those that aren't just listening, this is the last weekend before the Grand. You guys start on Friday, right?
Yeah. So we're pre-training now, and we typically pre-train for 5 days.
For 5 days.
Preceding the event.
It's a big deal.
Yep.
The Grand is my favorite event, and for those that listen know that I screwed up and didn't register for it this year, like an idiot.
I didn't know that.
Well, so I put it on
it was a tight registration window.
It was a tight registration window, and I looked it up, and I put in the 9th. Well, that was the day it closed.
Oh, no. At noon.
At noon.
Yeah.
So I went in the night on the 10th and went to register, and my heart
Oh, no.
But it didn't matter. She came into heat. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
so it didn't matter. I saved my money. So
in retrospect, you were okay.
I was okay. So I'll get to run the Fall Grand, and it'll be a good time. But before we dive into this, I just want to give a shout out to our first partner that is not the Hunt Test Guide, who has been a great supporter of the podcast, that has some of my content on there. To Purina. Purina Pro Plan is a new sponsor of the podcast. I've been feeding their food for the last 6 years, so I'm super excited to partner with them. I love the fact that they sponsor the Grand, and pretty much every HRC event that I know of, there's always Purina there. So had great luck with their food, so thank you to them for partnering. So really excited for that. I feel like my podcast grew up a little bit when I got Purina to sponsor it.
Well,
I don't doubt it.
They do a lot. Man. They do more than any food company to give back to the sport. There's no doubt.
Not just HRC, field trials. I mean, bird dog events, AKC tests, whatever.
The sporting dog community in general.
Yeah, they give back totally.
Yep. So thank you to them. And if you're looking for a new food, make sure you give Propine Sport a good old try. Well, Bill, it's pre-Grand training, and it is my favorite time of the year. Is pre-Grand training, because people are stressed, but they're not like crazy stressed yet. And so we're still having a good time, and it was cool to go over to the cabin over there and just eat some pizza and some wings, and hear some funny stories. Mostly terrible Grand experiences is pretty much what it was.
Pretty much, yeah.
But so Bill, how many Grands have you ridden so far? And are you a pro or an am? I don't know anything about you. So why don't you before we get too deep in this, give me kind of your 3-minute story of how you ended up at this seat right now, pre-Grand training.
Sure. I mean, I'll be honest. My story is pretty unique in the fact that I never worked for a pro trainer. I didn't know anything about the sporting dog world. I grew up a hunter, and I was a big time goose hunter, and went to college actually in Illinois, where we are now, which is kind of funny. It's a small world story. We're not far from where I went to school. When I got out of college, 2011, I had a personal dog that was given to me and by a neighbor, and he so happened to be a Lab-Chesapeake cross. Bomber was his name.
Bomber, that's a good dog name.
Bomber, big black male. If you didn't know he was Chesapeake, you wouldn't have really been able to tell looking at him. He was a 95-pound male retriever. Just just a huge dog, not overweight, just a big bone dog. And he was a goose hunter. I hunted him for a couple of years in college, and he would stay at home with my parents in Colorado when I was really busy at school. Well, long story short, when I got out of school, I got home and was starting to work. I worked at Cabela's a little bit, trying to find a quote unquote real job to put my education to use. And the economy wasn't good at the time, and I was struggling to find something I really liked. And through a couple of friends, I got hooked up with a local HRC club, and I knew nothing about that. I just had a friend one day, he said, he hunted with me before, and he said, you need to really come out and learn more about this retriever club and what you can do with Bomber in the off season. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of silly, honestly. I'm like, if you're not hunting with your dog, like what else is there to do? And I got, through those friends, I just learned more about the sport and learned about hunt tests and all these cool things that you could do with a dog, and to the most importantly, the level to which they could be trained. And I saw some of these dogs in our training days with the club, and I was like, that's amazing. Like, you can blow a whistle and a dog will stop and look at you.
And so how old was your dog at this point when you started going?
So he was already a 2-year-old dog.
2-year-old dog.
Dog.
He never had sat on a whistle, or you didn't know any of that yet.
Correct. And let me clarify. So I knew how to make him steady. He would sit in a blind, and he wouldn't go until I released him to go get a goose, because I didn't want any dangerous situations hunting. Wasn't force fetched. I didn't own an e-collar. I knew nothing about that. And got to learning more through the club and seeing how a dog could be properly trained. And so I took a 2.5-year-old, actually almost 3-year-old dog at the time, and ran him in seasoned. He did good, no problems with that. And I kind of went back and did some very rudimentary collar conditioning. I didn't even really force fetch him, which worked out to be okay because he was so good at holding and delivering birds. But looking back on that, had it have been any other dog, you would have had a problem down the road. But never force fetched him. Did some basic collar conditioning, and learned more about the sport, and started training and traveling to different places, training with different professionals and different amateurs alike, and ran my first Grand with Bomber. A couple years later, it was the Spring Grand in Phoenix City, Alabama in 2014. And I just went with the notion that I had a dog now that was a hunting retriever champion, and I thought maybe he had a shot in the dark of doing this. So I saved up some money and took some time off work and went down there. And it was tough. It was, to this day, one of the toughest Grands I've ever ran. I remember they passed 51 dogs out of 490. I believe it was, and someone could run the math on this, but my brain tells me it was around 11%. 11 or 12%, and that was Bomber's first Grand, and he passed, and it was cool, man. I just really soaked it all up, and it didn't really settle in, and then he failed the next one that fall, handler error on my part on a blind. I should have intervened sooner, and then he passed the very next one. He went 2 for 3 to become a Grand Champion, and my understanding is Tracy Stubbs told me recently that he's the only mixed breed Grand Champion that there is. I apologize if I'm misquoting that. Someone else could fact check that. But that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So I was a college kid, got out of school, had a hunting dog, learned about HRC, started training, and was fortunate to have the right people to kind of help me and let me learn from them. I got hooked on the competitive nature of it. I was a collegiate athlete, and sports were over, college was over, and I was like, what else can I do outside of hunting season to have fun and better my dog? And I just got hooked on seeing the progress you can make with an animal as a team, handler, dog team, and see where they can go and see the things they can do. And that kind of got me hook, line, and sinker.
Very cool. So I think I asked you this, and I can't remember what you said, over at the cabin, but so what happens with that, with a mixed breed dog? Like, he has a title, or like did you get a certificate in the mail and everything?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that was scary, actually.
Scary? What, are they going to try to kill you or something?
No, yeah. There was a scary story to that. I remember when he actually had a Grand Pass, and at that time, the UKC, because obviously everything through HRC is controlled by UKC. The breed registry said that he was considered an American mixed breed, because when I registered him, I said, I didn't know anybody. I said, I have a Lab-Chesapeake mix. I have no formal registration papers. He was gifted to me by a neighbor. And so he was an American mixed breed. And then they updated their system, and I was concerned that they did away with that mixed breed program. And I called in and spoke to someone at UKC, and they said, send us in 3 photos of your dog and the information. And I sent up a real, in-depth email, and I explained that he's already a hunting retriever champion and then has a grand pass. And I thought I was going to lose all that and the ability to compete with him. But no, they started a program called the limited privilege. So he had a number. It was LP012985. That was his limited privilege number. So when you look at all the dogs that are running an event and you see an R number, every dog has an R number. Well, he was the only one. He was LP. And that's how he was. And it was great. They kept the database. All his points were retained. I went on, and it was a few months later, I went to the Fall Grand, and that was the next spring, and he passed and got his grand title.
That's cool, man.
And
man, I love those unique, cool stories like that.
Yeah, it's all luck, I fell into it. I knew nothing about it, and I had a great dog. And in all reality, I wouldn't be where I am today as a professional trainer without that dog. That dog built my kennel. He built my career in every way, shape, and form, and that's no understatement. So
you are a pro then? Is that where you never actually answered the question, but that's all right.
Yeah,
we got there.
I'm pretty good at doing that. I got on a tangent.
I've seen your name in the grand stuff, but if I don't know the person, it's just another name, so it's cool. That's why I love I've done a couple different pre-grand training groups, and I love being in new groups because you just get to hang out. And I was with the group with Jeremy and Steve Eric, and man, some of the things that they did to each other was hilarious because it's a bunch of us younger guys, but back then, 2 years ago, I really felt younger. Yeah. Now I'm really starting not feel younger anymore. I got 5 gray hairs coming in. Anyway,
I'm 36 years old today.
Yeah. Hey, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, feeling older every day.
I'll tell you what, I'm 37. In the last 2 years, I've really started to feel older. So anyway, we're getting there. But before Jake falls asleep here, Jake, before you tell your story about who you are and how you got here into the dog world, I know I've said this on the podcast, and I told you before that we got in the cabin, but I'll never forget the day you saved my life. And
that's what I'm here for, man.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a pinch, but it felt like it in the moment. We're in Nebraska. I'm running, I think it was my first SRS. I think it was. Yeah, it was my first SRS. I had just recently met Clark, and he's having me meet all these people I've seen on TV and everything. And, I've seen you around, and there was a porta potty that was
miles.
It felt like it was miles. All right. And where we were running, this was I think it was day 1, but where we were, there was nowhere to hide if you had to go number 2.
Oh, man.
There was nowhere to go. And it was one of those moments where it was I wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't even in my mind. And then it was telling me it's time. And so I'm the hobo. I got everything. I got my toilet paper out, and I'm looking, and I'm like, frick, where the heck am I going to go? And I'm standing there, feeling so helpless with my toilet paper. And I look up, and Jake is sitting right next to his 4-wheeler. He said, the keys are in it or something like that. So I get on his ATV and I drive to that porta potty, and I made it. And I was so thankful the whole time I'm driving. I'm like, please, nobody else be in there. Nobody else be in there, because I need this sucker.
This is situation imminent.
Yeah, I was like, this is going to happen. So it all turned out okay in the end and came out okay. And Jake got his ATV back. Yeah. I don't remember much else about that SRS, but
yeah, I don't either, man.
It wasn't really very meaningful, probably for either of us, if I remember right.
I knew that I saw a guy in need, and I knew that I needed to intervene and help a guy out, and because I've been there. So I'm just glad I was there to help.
Jake's, that's funny, because one of my little things I know about Jake is he always carries dude wipes with him.
Dude wipes.
Dude wipes.
This guy is never to be found without dude wipes. He's prepared.
I got 2 packs in my truck right now.
See?
Well, now that we got Purina to sponsor us, that's the next one we're going after.
like
We're going
that.
after
I
some
like
dude
that.
wipes.
If you got them to sponsor you, that would be
pretty tight. All right. Well, Jake, I mean, just tell me a little bit more about like who you are and how'd you get to be sitting here pre-grand training?
So, I'm like Bill. I was an athlete coming out of high school.
Okay,
and,
let's back up. What sport did you play?
Yeah, I was a collegiate hurdler. So
Hurdler.
I ran track and field in high school and then 4 years of collegiate hurdles.
All right. So I was a collegiate wrestler, and then you were
So in high school, I wrestled and I played football.
played football.
And,
What state?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. Norman, Oklahoma. I went to Norman High School, and I wrestled and I played football there. And I had all the aspirations of going to do one or the other in college. That was just kind of what I was there to do. And long story short, my senior year in wrestling, it was at regionals. I was hoping to win state that year in wrestling, but I got injured pretty good. I broke my leg, spiral fracture.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're pretty much done when that happens.
Yeah, and every ligament in my left ankle just kind of disappeared. All in one motion. And so, I was looking at a couple, small D2 schools that were going to have me play football and wrestle there. And, that was kind of the goal. And so when I got injured, it kind of changed plans. And at the same time, I really got into duck hunting. I grew up deer hunting, turkey hunting, all that good stuff. But, duck hunting, I really fell in love with my junior year of high school. One of my best friends got me involved in that. And, ever since we started duck hunting, I was just like, man, it'd be cool to have a dog because I'm really tired of wading out in this knee-deep mud going to get all of our ducks that we shoot on public land that we're walking a mile into. I'm ready to have a dog. So I was already kind of doing some research. And long story short, man, I found this breeder there in Oklahoma City who had a litter of puppies, and he had 2 left over. So me and my buddy went and bought a couple of these puppies. And it just so happened right after I bought him, I broke my leg. So I had a lot of free time. I was sitting up there with my leg up and in a cast and didn't know what else to do. Exactly. And so, man, I researched a ton of videos. Freddie King was a big one. He used to have a free series on YouTube, man. Sport Dog, whatever, and I followed that, and the book Water Dog, I followed that as well. And so I trained this dog in my mom's backyard in Norman, Oklahoma, up until he was about at a double T level, and I was thinking, man, I'd really like to kind of get into this a little more. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm going to school at OSU to be a firefighter, but I don't know if that's really necessarily the path I want to take. I've got this dog. This is really fun. I love to hunt. And so I found a trainer in Stratford, Oklahoma named Greg McGuffin. And I worked for him part-time as I was going to school to be a firefighter. And, man, I just fell in love with training dogs. And, I know a lot of people say, I never want to make my hobby a profession.
Yeah.
And, I had that in my mind because I used to guide hunts as well, and I made my passion a profession, and that kind of got a little, different. But when it came to dogs, I was just like, man, I just love doing this. And so from there, I went on to work for a guy named Jeff Chestnut, who taught me a ton. He's been doing it so long. He's made a ton of grand champions, ton of master national hunters. And so I kind of learned the process of how to run a kennel, how to take a dog from here to here. And, that first dog I had, his name was Chief. And, even though he was only, $300, he ended up having a grand pass, and he was 2 for 2 with the national. Unfortunately, his health didn't allow him to work much longer than that. But, I was very proud of that, so as an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, I trained this dog to go do this stuff, and, from there I moved on from Jeff and ended up moving to Arkansas and helping run a kennel over there and learned from a guy named Jerry Seifritz, who was a Derby guy, and, he was amazing with young dogs. I mean, I'm talking from 8 weeks old to 2 years old. I mean, taught me everything I needed to know about it. And, man, he was just fantastic with him, man, from force fetch to teaching him how to mark, from teaching him how to, be steady. I mean, handle anything. And, from there, my passion just continued to grow. And I ran my first grant. So my first grant was actually at Bong.
Okay.
Whenever that was. What year was
2019,
that? 2019. In the fall. That was my first grant. I had Chief and another dog named Lucy. And I went out, I think, in the first series. So I thought I was ready, but then again, I was definitely not ready. And, man, from there, it just kind of compounded and ended up starting my own kennel and, training every day, just trying to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
Make grand champions.
I don't know if you're ever ready for a grand.
No.
I've run I think I've run 16 now.
Holy cow. 16
I
grands.
think I've run 16. I need to go.
Jeez.
You asked that. I need to go back and count, and not to interject, but if you're not feeling nervous going there, your heart's not in it, because there's so much on the line. And I don't care if you're doing it as an amateur and you've come all that way with one dog or you're doing it as a pro.
At the end of the day, it's perfection.
Yeah. I've been running a lot more field trials lately, and it's like no stress. Because you're just whatever the heck happens is gonna happen, and nobody's gonna look any different at you.
See, that's how I feel about the SRS, man.
Yeah, the same thing.
I'll go up to the line, and it's this is fun. Let's just go do. And maybe that's why I've had a tiny bit of success. But yeah, like Bill said, at the Grand, man, I'm up there with my first.
Because all that can happen is something bad.
Exactly. He didn't see the middle bird.
He didn't see the middle bird. Oh no.
Yeah, the margin for error at the Grand is so small, and.
Well, it's perfect. You nailed it. It's perfection. It's the close. I haven't ran any amateurs or any opens, but I've thrown a lot of birds for them, and it's so difficult. You'll never be perfect. Right. It's just so challenging. Right. But the dog that does the best dog wins. But at the Grand, it's like the consistency is at another level across the board.
They say
it doesn't
this
matter
is our standard, and you need to meet it.
It doesn't matter if not a single dog is perfect; they're gonna fail all of them.
Correct.
If a dog
you guys are talking about that one series you guys had a couple of years ago.
Old South Water, baby, the cornfield, the flooded cornfield to death. Yep, that's what we call it, man.
Yeah,
it was definitely a doozy.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. We lost half of our flight. We lost half
in first day.
Day one.
Day one.
Welcome to the Grand. There's so many horror stories.
So we had. How many dogs are in a Grand flight?
Typically, anymore,
60 or 80,
about 90.
90,
95.
So cut 90 in half, and that's what we carried to
45 bad days.
And only what did Clark say? 12 dogs out of the whole flight were clean. So on twos.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's a rough one.
That's a bleeding flight.
Yeah, in the first series.
Yeah.
So why do you guys keep doing it?
Because here's my whole deal.
Got the hook for it.
Here's my whole deal. There are all these different titles: SRS champion, FC, qualified all age, MNH, grand champion. If you could walk up to me and I don't know anything about you, and you say, "Yeah, man, my dog's a grand champion," that's a solid dog.
I know what that took.
That is a savage dog.
Yeah.
Hey, my dog's a QA. Oh, well, that's great.
One day they had a good day.
There could have been 12 dogs in the qual. There could have been 50. I don't know. My dog's an SRS. Granted, SRS champion's a savage too, but to be a grand champion, you have to be absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
For 5 days, twice.
That's consistency.
That's consistent. At the end of the day, it's very consistent.
And I would add to that, it's balance. It's not just that they had a couple of good weeks. They had a good 5-day week at one Grand, and they had another good 5-day week where they peaked. We try to get them to peak at the right time, but it's balance in that you can sit at the line and pick up a mark that's in the muck at 18 yards and go get that 200 yard,
and then go
that 200 yard memory bird, and then run a blind
with no shots in the field.
With no all hidden guns, no quote unquote no gun station, right? And then go run 4 grand level blinds and turn off all that desire to go get that 200 yard memory bird and run a blind under control as a team player.
And at the most, 1 cast refusal.
Correct.
That's the thing that gets me the most is that you watch some of these other things and you're like, there's a few cast refusals in there. You'd be done. 100%. You wouldn't finish it.
Even at the SRS level, oh man, that dog had 4 cast refusals, but he did it better than any other dog in the field. Well, you have 4 cash fuses at the Grand, you're out. You're gone.
Oh, it was at this, this isn't really, I'll just talk about it because I already brought it up. But at that SRS, the reason that we didn't make it to the 4 Series is because I ran a really good Grand blind.
Right.
And there was a little point that you had to get the dog dry. Right. And I only got 2 feet dry and not all of them. But man, she just looked so good doing what she was doing.
Can't help but just let her go.
I was like, yeah, just let her go. And then like, it happened and I went, shoot.
Right.
And I just finished it because I didn't know you could bring them back in an SRS. Yeah. So we got a 100-point penalty. And we still almost made the 6. Or we almost went in the top 6. But anyway.
Well, that dog you got's pretty daggum good, man.
Well, yeah, that wasn't the point. But I just never forget that. I was like, because I remember turning around to, who's the main marshal? Why am I blanking on his name?
Is it
Matt? Matt was sitting behind me, and he said, hey, man, she didn't get dry. I said, I know, but it was a good Grand blind. That's what I told him.
I'm sure he laughed as well. I'm sure he was like, it sure was.
It sure was. Yes, it was.
Nice. You know what I think's funny about all this is you go back, and I don't mean to derail it. But
the whole point is that we just talk.
Oh, I like
we got bourbon and we're talking.
I like that. Well, cheers to good dogs, man, for sure. But you go back to what Jake was saying when he told his story, and I picked up on one commonality there between Jake and I, which is 2 young men, half the country apart, don't know each other, crossroads later and become friends, but both had a dog that got them started. And
the one dog.
And I don't want to get into genetics and stuff here too much and breedings. It's very important. Don't get me wrong. You want to stack that deck in your favor. And of course, having a healthy, well-bred puppy, that means everything. But I think what's cool about these dogs is if you're consistent with them and you really give them the time of day they deserve and you pour your heart and soul into training them, even if you're a guy like me who is just learning as you go, didn't work for another pro and made a ton of mistakes along the way and still am. I want to learn every day. Point is, I had a great dog that got me there and he was free. He was given to me. Jake had you mentioned your dog, what, $300?
$300, baby.
It wasn't a dog that you went out and got the best FC.
He was at
a
FC Camo and Maggie, and that's it.
Yeah,
he's the first dog in his pedigree with the title.
You couldn't spend $3,500 on a puppy, and look where he took you.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
that's special.
But that's the thing, man. I mean, I was 18, 19 with nothing else to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it was every single day. I remember we were doing, get in the dog kennel, take a left back to the pile. It was just every single day.
Whatever you could do.
Man, there's nothing more dangerous than an amateur with a really good dog.
100%.
When the dog is good
100%.
and the amateur's got, that Winter and I, man, she just live in that truck. And we would see a park where, hey, look, there's a little ditch there. Let's go run something. There's something right there. Exactly. And she became the super singles dog. Because I'd find all these random places to do 100%. Stuff at.
Oh, well, I've heard field trial guys allude to that same thing. I'm not scared of the guy over there with the truck of FCs. I'm scared of that amateur who rolls up and all he does is train that one dog. And they have that inseparable bond.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think, I'm good friends with John Robertson, man, and for him to go and basically, beat everybody at the Crown with his one dog, that's the story of the amateur right there. And he doesn't have any nice grounds. He just, him and his dad, no ATV. I'll tell you what, I think I became a worse dog trainer when I got to places that I could use an ATV. Yeah. Because when you had to walk out for that mark, you really thought about that one mark.
You really wanted him to get that bird.
That one mark is going to be really valuable.
Before you hike all the equipment out there, it better be good.
That's a good way to put it, man. That's a good way to put it.
That really is.
But I can throw a lot more now. The one doesn't have to be as good. I got a few more.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So how many dogs you guys got running this Grand?
I'm running 6.
6? That's a good number.
Well, so my kennel is 20, 25 dogs. And yeah, actually, Jake and I were kind of randomly talking about this earlier about building young dogs. And
on our 11, 24-hour, 9-hour drive, whatever it was.
Yeah,
did you guys drive out here together? Or no.
Well,
just get on the phone and talk?
Yeah, I'm from Western Colorado. So I left Friday, and I drove to North Platte. I made it 8 hours to North Platte. So that was less than half. And then I did a 12-hour day Saturday, and then we trained today. So 2 days for me. And this is a close grand for me. This is a closer grand for
And
me.
I'm complaining about a 9.5 hour.
Dude, that anybody that talks about being when they're in the Rockies and they got to get here, I'm like, holy cow! Like, I get invited to come run out west, and I'm like, I don't know if I
That's
can.
far,
Like,
It was
dude.
snow.
really
it was,
far.
It was snowing when I drove. It was snowing.
It was
in the
snowing?
mountains.
No way.
Yeah, it was 40.
dude,
it was
it's
38,
May.
40 and
It's
stuff.
like deep into May.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
90 degrees on my kennel.
Man,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I've been over that pass in middle of May before when it got shut down because of a blizzard.
Wow.
So you
Really?
cross the Rockies in May, you're still not safe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jake, how many are you running?
I got 10.
10.
Yes, sir.
10. That's
A
a good
tan.
number.
10, baby.
A tan.
Man, 10's a good number. You know, it's not too many, but it's also enough to, I don't know if I want to say feel out the test and have enough bullets.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. You know,
It's hard going up there with one or two. It's scary.
dude. Your first dog's tough, man.
100%.
And I'm going to release some information that I'm not 100% sure this is accurate, and they're probably going to change it once I say this. But if you're an amateur and you got 2 dogs and one dog is stronger than the other, don't register them together.
Okay, so
Is this true? Because I've
dude,
done it.
Listen, I don't know because I tell my clients every year, you know, I've got a dog with 6 grand passes. Hey, enter this dog first. I've got a dog with 3 grand. Hey, enter this dog second. I have a dog he doesn't have any grand passes, but he's got a plate. He entered like 5th or 6th out of my dogs. He is my first dog this time.
Really? So
that's
they
weird
they probably
because
caught on. Because
I think they did because in years past, as you were
'cause I
talking
did
about,
that. I
the
did that for
order
my-
you enter them is the order.
is the way that they show up in your that they changed it smart. Okay, well, sorry everybody, but Tracy got on. Tracy found out.
Tracy found out. We're gonna have to talk to Tracy about
Like,
that.
hey, that was like really.
Come on,
you
man.
give us one thing, all right? Just give us the one.
Yeah.
Maybe for me it was different because the first dog I entered this year is the first dog I'm
Really?
running. And
All right, so
it's the
try
only
it.
grand champion
Try
on
it,
my
and I'm
truck.
going to delete
Yeah.
this part from the podcast.
Yeah. we need the fact checkers out there.
Hey,
that
but I
test.
will corner Tracy and ask him here in about a week.
He's gonna be like, I don't know, that's HR entry or whatever.
HRC entry.
HRC entry.
Yeah.
If that's their deal, I don't know.
But it's managed and owned. It's Entry Express's platform. Am I incorrect on that?
No, it's not
I have
Entry
no
Express.
idea, buddy.
It's Hunt Secretary runs it.
Yeah, Hunt Secretary. Not
Hunt Secretary, not Entry Express.
You're on the right track, but it's Hunt Secretary.
Okay.
The way you enter every other HRC test.
You sure it's Janet Kimbrough's deal?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
My understanding was it's not. My understanding it's Entry Express. And when you get
Well, no,
the
because
Entry
it's all my
Express.
information from Hunt Secretary.
okay.
Like if I change the title, it shows up in the next grand.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Okay.
When I
don't
get
know
the
even-
email, when I get the
Like
email
this is something that we really care about. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the listeners don't give a crap about.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
they do. Maybe like 2 people understand what the heck we're talking
we're
about.
getting on tangents.
But hey, tangents is what a podcast is all about.
We
People
were
are just
talking about number of dogs though, and your kennel's what, Jake? About 30?
Yeah, I keep about anywhere from 30 to 35.
And mine's 20 to 25. And so point is, you know, when you've got a kennel that size, I mean, it's sizable. It's not big. There's a lot of guys out there with bigger operations. And, you know, I don't know. I like being in that 6 to 8 dog range. It's nice for a lot of things. I feel like on the road, it's stressful enough. And the guys who do it with big numbers of dogs, I don't know how they do it, but you know, I can kind of focus more on each and every one of those dogs.
It goes back to talking about the 1 to 2 dog amateur.
Right.
He sees a mark he likes in a soccer field, he's going to pull over and run it. You
Right.
have 6 to 8 dogs, you have plenty of time to get
Quality.
that set up in versus somebody that has more dogs. You know, obviously time is a factor.
Yep.
So
Well, today
anyways.
was a good example. Just our training group, we were smart in how we did things. It's not huge. We ran 2 setups today.
Right,
We've got a full,
with
full.
how many dogs? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was like
40,
65 dogs total.
60.
And we
Well,
split-
because you guys got 30 on each group.
30 in each group. We split,
and I
we-
wasn't even here yet.
Yeah, and we did a land and a water set, and we flip flopped, and they were quality. I mean, you know, 4 or 5
That
months.
water setup that you guys did over there at the Fulton Farm, I was like, yep, that's the grand. Like when I saw a picture of it, I was like, that's the grand.
It was a doozy.
And I told this story, but I'll say it again. Like, this is like where they're training at is a place that we duck hunt at. Tyler's got permission over there. And one day we were sitting there, and it was 3 of us: Max, who's one of Tyler's friends, who I knew hunted some, but I didn't know much about Max. I mean, we've met a few times. And then Tyler. Well, I'm a guest. This is, I'm just come down to hang out with Tyler. I think we were going to teach puppies how to chase chuckers or something. We're like, oh, let's go hunt. So Tyler goes and he drops us off and he's going to park the ATV. And a group of like 35 mallards come in. And they're backpedaling right in front of us, like 20.
Feel the wind off
and I'm just looking at these things, and I'm like ready to shoot, but I'm the guest, so I'm not going to shoot. I'm waiting for him to call it. And then they kind of fly away. And I turned to him, and I said, why don't you call the shot? And he goes, I never call the shot.
That's not my job.
I'm like, wait, what? And then I was like, all right, I'll call the shot. And they came back. They didn't give us a good as a look, and we only shot one. But man, I was like, I still have nightmares about him not calling the shots on those mallards. But man, we've trained a lot there, and man, Dan has, here at Green Acres, like I think they don't have a ton of tech water, but like if you want a spring organic, spring grand, this is the best place there is to prepare for it.
I'm blown away with his grounds. They're amazing.
I've always seen Dana at the grands, and he's always at the upland. Like he's always got dogs running at the upland. I don't know how many grand champions he's made. Bill made the comment earlier, he said, hey man, how many grand champions have you made? Dan just very humbly said, a few. Right. Yeah. And based off of this operation here, it's no surprise as to why he's had a lot of success.
Quality.
Yeah. Do you guys know he has 400 upland passes consecutively and never failed a dog?
That's unreal. Wow. That's unreal.
Wow.
Like he is the upland master.
So he don't lose no dogs.
He said that he's never lost one in a weekend upland. He lost one dog at the Grand, and it was like a freak thing that happened. It wasn't like the dog, he told me once, I can't remember, but it wasn't like a normal thing.
Bizarre
it was like a bizarre circumstance. Yeah. He's like it was like one of those things. Like, do I protest it? Do I not? Right. And it was like one of those weird deals. Right. But yeah, he's never 400, and that was a long time ago. 400 consecutive passes.
So add a couple hundred to that.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought it was real humble of him. He and I were just chatting today in holding blinds, waiting to run, and I said, Dan, your operation's amazing. I said, how many grand champions have you made, if you don't mind me asking? He said, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't really have that right off the top of my head. And I think that's cool, because that to me tells me that's a person who's enjoying the process, not just, well, I've done this and I've done that, and this is this many. He's enjoying what he's doing with each and every dog. I mean, it matters to it's good to say I've accomplished this, but I just thought it was cool that he wasn't able to just spout that out.
Well, so he has 3 to 4 trainers at a time. Tyler's the main, trainer. But they don't have a young dog trainer. That dog comes in, he starts with Dan. Dan does the puppy stuff where they're coming down at 12 weeks old. They're doing their puppy stuff throughout the time. They get dropped off at 6 months, and they stay with that one trainer the whole time.
That's great.
It's the best way to do it.
It's a very different, he's running it because to him, it's just like, he loves every part of it. Yeah. Like Clark, he's like, I don't do those young dog stuff. Yeah, right. But he loves it, and he is, like, in my opinion, he's the best teacher. Like not everything, but a vast majority of what I know comes from just him, like, slowing down and just like, you're going to understand this. And we just walked through it. I'll never forget when he taught me to force fetch. And speaking of the whole athlete thing, he has these owners that come down and have no dog sense. It's like zero feeling, right?
Can't read an animal.
And can't read them at all. And I'm pinching this dog's ear, and I like throw the thing in the dog's mouth. And he's like, no, you just gotta be like a lot slower. And I did it, and it was that moment. I remember Dan being like, oh, you can do this. But it was like that subtle thing of like me actually being able to take the coaching that it took of just slowing down.
Little details,
little tiny
inch
details,
by inch, baby,
and
stepping stones.
And then he's like, all right, and because at that point I was working with one of his assistant trainers, and she was sick or something, and that's why I ended up doing a session with Dan instead of her. And that was when our whole relationship started, was just from that one. I don't even remember exactly what it was.
He saw your timing, and
he's like, oh, okay. Like he's not going to be a complete failure. He's not going to be like 90%. No, I shouldn't say that because maybe his clients are listening. But so that was really it. But man, like he has this incredible organic, we lose a lot of the water here once fall comes, so it's not quite as good. But man, you could, like, for the spring grand, and you got enough time, like the grand being later, this place is like unbelievable for prep. So I'm excited for you to get out there and really have a good time.
I was blown away today seeing some of the grounds, and it's pristine.
Did they say where you guys are going tomorrow?
I don't think we
probably nobody knows yet
exactly yet, but
and Tyler's having the time of his life here because he's got all these like pros, all these like colleagues, I guess is like probably the right word. I don't know, what do you guys call each other, friends? Anyway, he's like, all these guys are here and I get to show them everything. All the places that I'm like feel are stale, he's like, I get to take you to all these all these places and you guys get to see them. So
I think one of the coolest things about being a professional dog trainer now and doing it for a living is traveling around, meeting new people, and seeing how everyone reaches the same goal but might have different ways of getting there. Just little different ways of different approaches with dogs and different styles and little subtleties. It's really cool to see that.
Many different ways to skin a cat.
That's absolutely right. I mean, that's absolutely right. And it's educational. I mean, you go train with other people, and really, if you have an open mind about it, whether you're a professional or not, or you've been doing it a long time or a little while, I think you can still learn something from anyone else you train with.
Yeah, 100%.
Honestly, even if it's something you don't fully agree with or don't like, or it might not work for your style or your dogs, it doesn't mean it's
still information.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, I got a question for you guys, and it's interesting because you guys both kind of did the you didn't do it opposite of me. Like I think totally like the one dog that set you up is kind of how we all got here. Like I have the one dog. But I was thinking about on the drive up here, just statistics about how pedigrees equal that successful dog, right? And I was thinking about like, you see all these field trial dogs and these grand dogs. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about pedigrees, only because I'm going to do the math on this like on paper. So I'm going to do another episode about this specifically. I'll find some guest. I don't know who's going to be yet, but I want to talk about the average of, because I think there's good dogs. And when I say a good dog, I mean a dog that is capable of getting an HRCH, probably, being able to play the grand game. Like that's what I would say. There's good dogs. But then there's like this another level of like the dogs that I like would call a winner, where like they have a shot to win against another set of dogs in that field, whether that's SRS, whether that's a field trial, or even if it was like a fun hunt test kind of thing. What percentage of the dogs that you guys train would be in the good dog category and then that winner category?
Like almost like, not to put a word in your mouth, but maybe from good to elite.
Good to elite.
An elite level. They just have something special is what you're trying to ask.
So you guys train a lot of dogs. What would that be? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I've been thinking about this a lot because I think people don't realize that how hard it is really to get that elite dog that you guys might have gotten your first try.
Do you want to start with that?
So for me, a dog that gives 110% effort every single day, no matter what, can be turned into an elite dog. Because that dog is going to want to get that 300-yard, 200-yard Old South mark up the middle. They're going to want to do it. You cannot teach them to want to do it, right? So, and the other part of it is mannerisms. There may be, a lot of guys are, they're very high on particular breedings, right? Mickey, Tubbs, Fox, whatever it may be. Yeah. A lot of it has to do with the mannerisms of that particular dog. I mean, everybody here knows that just because there's 6 dogs in a litter doesn't make them all equal. This dog may have the characteristics of the female. This dog may have the characteristics of the male. But it all boils down to the effort put forth. And that's just I could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of how I look at it. You know, if I can send a dog for a mark, let's just say I have a diagonal, you know, cover strip that this dog needs to hit perfectly, because you can ask Clark, man, we ran this one series at a Grand, I can't remember, he could tell you, but there was this diagonal cover strip. Every series before, the wind was left to right. The dogs were running down the cut path, picking up the mark, getting the mark, whatever. But when we ran it, the wind completely switched. It was right to left. If you didn't diagonally hit this cover strip, you weren't getting that bird. And it was in the 4 series, so it was like do or die.
Especially if you were sitting on ones.
Exactly. Yeah. And a couple of mine were. You know, at the end of the day, in training, I want that dog that is going to put in 110%, so I can teach them by recall and attrition to hit that strip. Or even whatever, the shoreline water blind, shoreline mark, whatever the factor may be, I want to be able to teach that dog through attrition and not even just recall. Everybody does it differently, but if he's not putting in or she's not putting in 110% every single day, you know, it's hard to get the same result out of training, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I articulated that correctly, but
but going back to the percentages though, how many dogs are giving you the 110?
So let's just say I got 30 dogs in my kennel. I'll say 15 to 20% are giving the absolute most of their being every single day.
Yeah, 15 to 20%. That's okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't disagree with anything Jake just said. And I might be thinking about the question differently. For me to talk about that elite caliber dog, I agree with what Jake said. Let's just take litter mates, for example. You have litter mate brothers. Okay. Blood is exactly the same. And I've had this with dogs I've trained over the years. Sometimes that one dog just has that something special edge. Even if they both give the same effort every day and they're both coachable and they are both high-level performers, that one dog might just have a little bit better marking.
And you don't know what it is. Yeah,
it's
these subtle things.
It's talent. It's God-gifted. I mean, or whatever you want to call it. Here's the thing. We're not all made to be professional athletes, right? And you see, you know, let's use a golf example. I mean, look at what Tiger Woods has done in golf. Look at Scotty Scheffler right now. I mean, all these pros are out there on the PGA, and they can, sure, any one of them can win every day, but you see these guys who are just winning consistently, right? You see that with dogs. You get these dogs in training that not only do they have the talent, all the talent in the world, and they truly could be that 10 percentile elite level dog, but then they also give you 100% effort every day. And that's a dangerous
you need the combo for sure.
When you have that, you have an absolute hammer. And I've had a couple of those, and I think it's luck of the draw. And if a little bit.
So how many would you say that you've had percentage? Would you say 5%, 10%?
Well, I want to clarify that, and because I feel like Jake answered it by saying how much a percentage of his dogs in the kennel, what percentage are giving you 100% effort versus the way I first understood the question.
Yeah, you understood the question the way I was asking.
Okay, so that's fine. We'll clarify that. So I feel like you asked, which is in my mind of dogs that I train at any given time, I'm lucky if 5 to 10% of those are truly gifted with everything.
Yeah.
Elite level. Now, great genetics, you know, giving you good effort still can be HRCH master hunters, even a grand champion. But I mean, a dog that can take it to the next level could almost play any game. And you can just see that day in and day out. They rarely miss. They're always on. I feel like that's that 10 percentile. Now, I have a lot of dogs that I've trained that give 100% effort every day, but they might not be the smartest, and it's hard for them to really. And
or they're most talented. You know, hey, you made all the correct decisions.
But at the same time, though, man, even if that's the case and they're giving it 110%,
I'd rather train that any day.
They're gonna make amazing animals.
That is true.
And I should have clarified that. I'm talking when I'm talking about the dog that you're talking about giving 110%. That was what I was saying. The good dog. Like the dog,
okay, 10-4.
The dog that hey, that can be a grand champion, that can be an HRCH, a master hunter, that can, I almost said win the Master National, get plates at the Master National. But you see all the time, those dogs that are good dogs go to trials against other dogs that are good, and they just don't win.
Okay, 10-4.
They just don't win.
I misunderstood.
And I was just thinking about this more and more because, like I've always said, I like a grand female bred to
whatever
an FC, a crown champion. I've always liked that combination because I really believe that, like what you said at the beginning, they have the composure, they have the want to go do it. They're very consistent. Like that's what it takes, a good consistent dog to be a grand champion. So I've always looked for that. And then the winner, that dog that's been a winner somewhere that has proven, like that's where I think like the points matter. Like when you see a dog that has a ton of field trial points, or you see a dog that has a ton of SRS points, that dog has proven weekend and over weekend that dog was the best or one of the best that weekend. That's where you start to see elite. And I was thinking about this, and I'm not saying that this is wrong, but that's like, well, not wrong. That's one of the reasons I love the Super Retriever series, because it's taken all these dogs that have been trained in a particular manner for Hunt Test, but given them a venue for us to see from a pedigree standpoint, who are the winners? Yeah. And I find that real. I don't know. I just thought about that on the way here, and so now I'm like, all into it.
Well, here's totally another agree, analogy.
But here's the thing. Here's my deal. How many of those dogs do you think are quote unquote lucky dogs? Like, have you guys ever had? That's
what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you won that one crown. It's about.
Have you ever had a dog that's just unlucky? Like, man, you're in training and this dog is whooping every dog on your truck, or whatever in your training.
Yeah.
If you're an amateur, your dog is just bam, 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 line the blind, bam, 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 line the blind in training, and then you get to the trial or the test, and it's like didn't see the left bird. Or couldn't see me on the blind.
Bird had to come back, and then
luck has a lot to do with it.
Luck does have a lot to do with it, but I have seen a lot of dogs that win training days and never win the big day.
That's what I'm
coming
saying,
full circle, that's why the grand title to all of us means so much, because that dog wasn't just good that one day. That dog was good for 5 days and did it twice in its life. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
One other, maybe it's a silly analogy, but no, like coming full circle on this. So I think a lot of people, maybe people listening to the podcast, have played sports throughout their life. We started talking about our athletic careers, if you want to call that, whether it's high school or college. Here's the thing. I'll use me as an example. I was a really good hurdler. I was good enough to be a collegiate athlete, but I wasn't elite. Yeah. I wasn't good enough to go D1, and I wasn't.
He's a good dog.
That's what I'm saying. I was a good dog. I wasn't an elite dog.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I tried so hard. I lifted twice a day. We did workouts every day. My diet was good. I really applied myself, but I wasn't just born with really good speed. I wasn't born with that D1 speed or someone who could make it to the Olympics, but I had fun competing in college. Mm-hmm. So I get these dogs in training all the time, and they end up making, like Jake said, 100% agreement. They work hard. They make HRCH Master Hunters. Hopefully they make a grand champion. They could get a Master National plate maybe, but there's still that, if you had to pick the top 2 or 3 dogs in your kennel, and that's where I'm getting at. You're lucky if you have the top 2, 3, 4 dogs, maybe in that 5 to 10%
range.
We're
talking about 5%.
That are just hammers.
Yeah, 5%.
And they were just born with it. And you've worked hard and you've trained it into them, and they've worked hard and given you all that back and effort every day, but they also just had something special.
Yeah, there's the it factor. And how I got thinking about this is I got one dog right now I got a puppy and another puppy that are 6 months and 7 months apart, or 6 months and 7 months old. And one is a hero and one is almost a zero.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And one is out of an NFC, and he's a zero right now. Maybe he'll change. He's young.
Now, what, let me ask you, why? What are you
He doesn't give me he don't give me 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking pretty much just effort right now.
I can see it's effort. I can see it's just his attitude about life. Yeah. Like he'd rather drink the whole pond than eat. Like if you're gonna if you don't want that bumper enough by this point, because I do a ton of puppy work. If you don't want that bumper in the water more than you want to drink the pond by this point, and it's not like your first time in the water, it's like day 10 of you learning how to swim.
And you've been water.
And you had water, and that's what you care more about than getting that bumper. Yeah. I don't know if we got a place for you.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
hard.
But so
and the gamble is sometimes later in life, if you held on, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and they're great. But you don't know.
But they ain't gonna be the 5%.
I don't think so. I don't. That's the thing that I was thinking about.
Dude,
so
that's what I'm talking about. That's the mannerism.
Yep.
That's the effort that I was kind of alluding to before.
Right.
Yep. So I've bought 15 dogs now. I did the math. It's not exactly 15, but it's pretty close to 15. I'd have to write it down. I was just doing it in my head in the car. And I have one that I'd say is elite. I have two that I would think are elite. One I bought with a friend, and he just, she got her HRCH. She was my first dog. I put her HRCH on out of Mason, dude, female, like grandfather or dad was dude. Like she was legit, but that was it. She got her HRCH and that was it. I think she probably could have done it, but I don't know. I think she had that. That's it. Her and Winter were the only two that I think had the it factor that I thought were really, really like good dogs. Like,
and it's hard to put into words, but it's just this intangible thing. You can just sense it.
Yeah.
You can just sense it.
And that's why I just keep buying dogs.
You literally
feel the power.
You feel it.
Yeah. That's why I'm buying dogs. I'm training them. And if they don't make out, hey, I got a great hunting home you're going to love it, my friend.
Go get them.
Go get them.
Yep.
So anyway, I was just curious if you guys were kind of like, so what is that? 2 out of 15. So it's a little bit higher than, well, I can't do math, but.
Yeah. I mean, out of the 10 dogs I'm running at the Graham, I would say.
I won't ask you which one.
No. We're not gonna do that. I would say 4 of them are like.
Really? So you're pretty, well, that's out of your grand truck.
Out of my 35 dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and I've got, so if you're just talking about our dogs here, I've got 6 on my truck. And don't get me wrong, every single one of them is capable.
They could all go past the
They
Grand.
can all go do
100%.
it. But if we're talking just about those dogs on the truck and being that elite level dog, I've got 2 on the truck.
Yeah.
That are they just have that. And the others are very good and very consistent, but there's just 2 with that special something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that might even be going into like a 5 percentile,
Right.
Yeah.
It's low.
Because that's the percentage that's even here.
Right.
Yeah.
At the highest, at in my opinion, the hardest hunt test on the planet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Were you early on, before we started that whole question, I felt like you were going to try to get into something about breedings or genetics with that. Were you going that route about pedigrees or not?
Well,
really?
Yes and no. Like I was really thinking about that it factor in the winter. And I used to think QA meant a lot, but then I realized that can happen in a weekend. But I think so a QA2 means something more than a QA does now, which I didn't feel like that meant much. How many times they had to run to get that QA. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I've always said I like a grand female with a QA. So I can say, okay, they can do both venues. But then I started to think about that and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I believe that the QAA is as important as either a QA2 or even better, an SRS champion female. Because I know they're going to be bred to a winner on the other side. For the dogs that I'm looking at, so I was really just thinking about the females and thinking about that, but then also thinking, well, my it is out of 2 grand dogs.
Oh, you just took the words out of my
granted,
mouth.
One's got 10 passes and the other one had 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now. There's guys who have been doing it a lot longer and whatever. I'm not the geneticist, but the dogs that I've seen out of these grand champion to grand champion breedings, I think sometimes, the intentions are good and the genetics might be too hot. You get a dog you get an FC to AFC or whatever, you get these high-end field trial breedings and that's perfect if it works out. But a lot of times it's not good for the average trainer or even the amateur trainer or handler. I see these grand champion dogs and bred to other grand champions, and there's some good stuff out there. That should not be overlooked.
But that's the same as your NFC to whatever FC female. I mean, it's all about the mannerisms, dude.
Yeah.
It don't matter what it's bred to. Like Bomber. your Chesapeake Labrador cross.
Yeah.
Better than what, 90% of the dogs in the country, 80% of the dogs in the country. He's out of a Chesapeake and a Labrador, and he's got an NFC puppy that doesn't like to swim in the water. So it goes back to just like a good dog is a good dog.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're obviously bettering your odds by buying a fantastic breeding out of a grand champion.
But genetics don't always guarantee success.
Always. You're bettering your chances.
Yes.
But
I think
a good dog that.
No, and you guys are getting to it in a different way than I was trying to get to it, but I think both are very good. Like you're saying, a good dog is a good dog.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to say, it's hard to find the it.
100%.
Correct.
Like that's where I was like really like, wow, this has been hard.
Hard to find the it, and I would add on to that, not always a rhyme or reason as to what produced the
No, exactly. It doesn't matter pedigree.
But definitely statistically, if you get good breedings, you have a much better chance of
100%.
getting. I mean, like, and the other thing is like Clark and I were talking about the pups that are coming out of Winter and Stroker. And we were talking about them, and a lot of it has to do with where they're going for homes.
Right.
But
what's the foundation?
What's the foundation? But there are 9 of them out of 15 puppies. There's been 15 puppies, 9 of them. And I've talked to the pros or the very trusted amateurs that have other grand champions. Like, there's a very good chance that there'll be 9 grand champions out of 15 puppies. Just very strong. 4 of them are running derbies already, like doing super well. 3 of them already have season title. 2 of them already have finished passes, and they're I think they're 12 months old.
Babies.
So, they're babies, but they got it. Like from what I'm talking about is like a lot. Not I shouldn't say got it based on the conversation. They're good dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
They're good dogs.
Yeah. They're showing the potential of the breeding. The whole purpose of it.
So like my point is it stacks the odds in your favor. But I also know that there's 2 that didn't do great on the first litter.
That's just how it is.
That's just how it is. So it's all about stacking in your deck and keep freaking trying. That's the end of the podcast. Keep freaking trying.
Well, and once again, you have a brother or a sister. You are not your sibling, and they are not you.
Yeah.
You have your strengths and weaknesses, and that's the same with these dogs.
Yeah. I feel more like tired now than I did before we started talking about this, because now I'm tired trying to keep finding the it, but I'll keep doing it.
Absolutely.
You got to, man.
You have to.
That's the whole point.
It really is.
Well, that's a good place to end, I think, guys. Thanks. Appreciate you guys being on. And man, good luck. I hope you pass all 6. I hope you pass all 10.
Thank you.
Me too, buddy.
Probably won't happen, but I hope it does.
Me too, buddy.
Stinson retrievers, high desert retrievers. We'll go give them our effort.
Yeah,
give it 100% and just hope for some good luck and some good preparation this week. So
yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you having us on, man.
Yeah, I'm glad we did this impromptu one. This was a good conversation. I didn't know where we were gonna go because a lot of times I have no plan, but this was fun. I really liked your story at the beginning. I think that listeners need to hear it. I think we went into some really fun genetics talking, and it was good. So I want to thank our partner Purina for sponsoring the podcast and helping us keep bringing great content to all that are listening. And for those that are watching on YouTube, thank you. Have a good night.
And thanks again to Mr. Dan Erkey for having us.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr. Dan.
it.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Very good.